Hello, world. This is Cara St. Louis. That's Shane Bales, and I'm so happy we're in the same place at the same time right now with our faces talking
And the same time zone.
and the same time zone for the first time ever. Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know, maybe since a couple years ago. But you can see by my backdrop, I'm in Maine. Shane is in Toronto. Shane, do you know the card game 52 card pickup?
Absolutely.
You know that one? Do you know that's what it feels like the last 2 months has been?
Yep.
I think we got all the cards back in the pack, gang. And here we are. They can't stop us now. Okay, so I've got Shane here for a while. I have to get up early to go, but I'm just really happy. Really happy to have him. We both had a 52 card pickup month, 2 months, but now we're back. We're back. So I'm going to run off and do some stuff in the States, and then I'm going to go up to Toronto and do some stuff with Shane, and I am super stoked for that. But this may not have occurred to you, but we talk a lot, Shane and I, about all kinds of stuff. And so at any given time, seriously, at any given time, there's a lot of questions I want to ask him. There's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. And things come up in the lead up to this stuff that we're going to be doing together, for sure. We're not going to talk too much about it because things are still in the embryonic stage in terms of, making sense of what we want to present, making sense of what we want to present together, things like that. And but there is stuff that I really want to ask him about. 2 months ago, when the last time that we actually could manage to do this, someone sent either myself or Shane a request. And the request was they wanted him to talk about alchemy. And so I'm just going to let him freeform that because I think it's an important topic. Go.
Where to start? I've had to do some research because I don't understand the terminology that a lot of people have for that. To me, it has a lot. It's a fairly simple process, but I guess for someone who's not me, there's certain steps you kind of need to take in order to make something happen. But the gist of it would be transmutation, and that is turning the polarity on things. Very simple things that could be considered alchemy would even be, flipping a cross upside down or inverting the pentagram. The transmutation of an energy into an alternate energy. And a lot of the time when we talk about alchemy, we're actually talking about something physical, like the idea of turning lead into gold, but that is still metaphoric. Yes, there are practices you could take to turn actual lead into actual gold, but the idea of turning lead into gold is actually a metaphoric principle of inverting, reverting, and transmuting energy into something that it wasn't originally intended to be. I give different examples of this, like when people start talking about hearing, buzzes in their head, the voice of God technology, whatever you want to call that, and that, like, they hear this tone. I always use the phasing term from music, where if you send the same tone back, it's going to phase it out, and its effect on you is not going to be as potent, or it may become nil. And that's an example of alchemy, of transmutation of an original thought or idea or energy or source or material into something else. And I need to do some research so I understand the terminology that people use in order to speak on that a little bit more fluently, but and give more examples of how to create that. But a lot of it all comes down to what I've said about ritual many times, and that is that, what a ritual is something tangible for the mind to grab hold of so that it can project it into reality, because this thing in here is what your projector is, and whatever you convince it of, it will project out into there. And that's, another version of alchemy, which is magic. While they were developing the mystery schools, they started breaking all of these different forms of magic down into subcategories, and alchemy became a subcategory of magic where it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's like the idea, the Hogwarts school, where every different class is, one's for potions, one's for spells, one's for this, one's for that, but essentially it's all magic. And so
Right.
I do tend to keep things under the one heading of magic. for myself personally.
Yeah.
But in order to be more effective when I'm speaking to other people, I do have to respect those different categories. And alchemy is an example of that. That to me, it's just, magic, and it all works the same way. It all has the same tenets and principles. It's, I guess a lot of the time when alchemy as a word is used, you're actually talking about turning, water into wine, or lead into gold physically. So I think that's a.
Why would using fire come under alchemy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the scientific aspect of alchemy would be, turning gas into liquid and liquid into gas, and solid into
Because
gas.
alchemy, right? Alchemy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I've just had a couple of conversations recently. One was with Maria Wheatley and one was with Sethicus about before fire came up. And do you ever have an image of yourself? Do you have a magic image of yourself with fire? Because I do, and so does Sethicus. Is there some sort of, and would you be willing to reveal it if you do? Do you have kind of a?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question.
Oh, okay, well,
I have a very close relationship with fire, I guess. It's important to me. Even as a magical ritual, writing something on a piece of paper and burning said piece of paper is a type of ritual that can be very effective, right? So that's something I personally like to use.
Yeah. Okay.
My own image of, I guess, myself with fire would probably be breathing it, but
actually,
which I tend to do in this lifetime when people upset me in the wrong ways. I have a very poignant and sharp tongue when I need to, and most of the time it is fairly gentle and a little bit soft. But
it's only been one time that I've felt your ire without actually you having, just I could just like feel that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago. But no, I guess you would embody fire in ways that are very specific to you. And I often see myself with two golden flames, one in each palm, just because that seems to be attached to me. Jessica's has some blue flame that he is connected to. Anyway, so you are a flame, basically, is what you're saying. You really just are a flame. Right.
It burns in my belly.
Burns in your belly, and you don't want to be on the receiving end of it. Right. Okay. Well, and that so alchemy is something that will be evolving, probably.
It'll be a big part of my own lecture series. It's just, not to say that I don't want to give away too much of it now. I just don't think I'm quite as prepared as I would like to be to really go on a tangent about it right here and now. And,
right. And it's probably not a good idea anyway, because what I've noticed is that these things incarnate in ways we don't expect anyway. So if we just start yapping about it, that blocks the truth, the reality from coming. So we ought not to do that. We need to leave the space for things to be true, which is something I just talked to Shane about anyway, which we'll get into later, in terms of leaving the space for the true, authentic information to come. If you just start throwing junk around and try to research and grab as much, people talk. It's not always creation. Sometimes it's just noise and distraction and all of that stuff. So I never jump headlong into the noise. And so because I never jump headlong into the noise, often I have to say, I don't know yet. I don't know. Yeah. I'll find out. It'll come. Anyway, so we've done the alchemy request anyway, I feel like. Couple of other things I want to talk to him about. And I think the first thing I'm going to talk to him about is the personal stuff. There's one personal question I asked him permission to talk about. And the reason I asked him permission is because it's one of those things that gets sensationalized, and it's been a tender spot for a lot of reasons for a lot of people. And Shane and I both been around this business for a while, and we know that things can get fun in ways that aren't authentic. They're kind of true, but they're not really true, and they give an impression of people that I don't think Shane would appreciate. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for Shane ever. Anyway, so what I asked him was, he seemed at some point to have some connection in some way to the MyLab situation. The MyLab kids, that's how I term them, and I hope that's not disrespectful in any way, but I do call them the MyLab kids. There are a handful around who have been really saturated in those programs in ways that they were turned into weapons and things like that, and broken in ways. Shane, sometimes I make a mistake of calling Shane a MyLab kid, and he's not. I don't know that he would agree with that, so I'm going to give him. I'm asking him, what's your relationship to that? How would you place yourself in relationship to that stuff?
I'm not a MyLab victim. I am familiar with the programs as an observer and as someone who is meant to understand them as part of the whole. I've talked a few times about how my own training wasn't necessarily a specialty in any one thing. It was more of an overview of many things and something that I had to spend a lot of time.
I've lost your audio, babe. What's going on? Nope. Shane, I've lost your audio. I can't hear you. This has been happening, guys. Hang in there. He's coming. He's coming. It's probably good right now because my oldest son is out there singing a raunchy song, despite my telling him not to. Very Hal. Although you can hear me. Anyway, while Shane is working on his audio, yeah, I could sing a little song, but I won't.
All right, can you hear me now?
There you are. I got to.
All right, I'm going to try it without these things and see how that works.
Sometimes I have to do that. Yeah, it's the computer. It's not. Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about Shane's relationship to this MyLab situation, which is a quite serious situation and shouldn't be screwed around with, in my view. Go ahead, Dave.
So what I was saying was I'm not a MyLab victim. I'm not someone who was taken out of my bed while I was asleep and brought to any kind of thing. I've spoke about my education being kind of an overview of things and how I was shown all different programs in order to understand the gist of the umbrella that people call the Illuminati and all of these secret programs. And myself were never taken, but I've witnessed it from the point in time they take you from your bed to the point in time they wake you up, to the point in time they put you back in, way too many people. It's an important thing because it's a program that gets used for many, many different things. It can be used to, fake ET experiences. It can be used for just straight up, MK Ultra style mind control. It can be used for even just a way to bring you in and reprogram you or deprogram you or any of the above. They will use the same tactics in order to do memory wipes and all of those different things. So it literally ties into every type of program. The one that we associate it with the most, obviously, is the alien abduction scenario, which is something that they needed to prove or needed to instill on us was ET abduction scenario. And that's not to say that nobody's really abducted by alien either. I'm just saying that for the most part, it's something that they want you to believe because they kind of want you to dislike anything out there, right? They want to make you feel like that's dangerous and everything else is okay. It is not to say that that's not dangerous in some senses, but there's no blanket to put on that. Not every ET is dangerous. Not every human is dangerous. Not every anything is dangerous. So those generalizations never work, as I've talked about many times, but a lot of people do kind of assume that because of the way that I was involved with programs and whatnot that I am MyLab. But I went there awake. I got in a car and I got driven to a bus and I got taken from the bus to a facility. It was never arbitrarily, it could have just been a car, depending on the visit. But it's never been like pulled out of my bed while I was sleeping type thing. Right. And not to say that I disbelieve that happens to anybody, because I do, but it's just never happened to me. So it is kind of a false assumption to think that because I'm aware of MyLab programs and what they do, that I'm someone who was part of them in a victim sense. And that's not to imply that I was part of them. Like I wasn't working for them. I wasn't making these things happen to people.
Right.
But like with a lot of these very dark and disgusting things that happen, I was forced to watch and understand why they were doing it from their perspective. I have my own feelings and opinions on it all, obviously, like how I feel about it and how they would like me to feel about it aren't the same thing. But while it was happening, the intention was to just make sure that I knew it was happening so I could see the scope of how they're able to keep this umbrella on top of everyone.
That's really interesting, though, actually, and I know you've talked about that before, but it's striking me in a kind of a different way tonight. It's really fascinating that they wanted you, especially as a child, really, to see the scope of everything that was going on, to witness lots of things that, I mean, I've heard some of the things from you. They're private. And affect your attitude toward them, Shane, more than anything. Yeah.
That was a lot of it. That was a lot of it. It's like anyone within any of these programs, like they kind of want to make you feel special, right?
Yeah.
And the normal handler type program didn't work with me, it didn't really give me that feeling special. I guess they thought that if they gave me this almost a bit of a privileged point of view on a lot of things, that
Right.
that would be the hook that would make me go, yeah, okay, well then maybe I can affect change within this. But I understand that you're never going to win a game by playing the same game. You know, you really do have to develop your own rules and develop your own way of playing a game if you want to win it. And especially a game like this.
Yes. And you do have, you know, this isn't something I brought to you before we started, but you do have a segment of your life that it's not my lab, but I was telling you that my children are very big fans of this show, Stranger Things, and they've shown me the start of the second season or something. And I often feel that must be, you must resonate with I don't know if you've ever even seen it. Maybe you don't want to.
I haven't seen the second season yet, but every different program has its own kind of trauma-based aspect to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so as they were bouncing me from program to program, I was enduring different types of trauma based on whatever that program was. Like, just as an example, one being based on water, you wake up in a cage, and cage goes underwater until you're at the point of drowning. Then they slowly bring it back up, you know, and that's just your daily trauma burst. You know, as an example, other things.
Yeah,
exactly.
And yet, you and I both talked about the fact that we need to be in that very often when we're receiving or not channeling. I don't like that word. When we're developing something, we like to be in water. So isn't it? I mean, I'm sorry, I just stuck that in because it's interesting. But yes, go ahead with the relationship that you had as a child to some of the other stuff, like some of the people that I've, and you don't have to talk about this, but some of the people that I've researched in terms of social engineering, like, is it Cameron, Dr. Cameron in Canada. I know somebody well. She did some writing for me on my online magazine. Who was a kid that Mengele got a hold of in California. And, you know, so you weren't a my lab kid, but you were definitely a sought after kid, were you not? Anyway, you're, oh baby, I've got your audio's gone again. That's okay. This is going to be still a really good show. We just have to get Shane's audio to stay put. I'm not giving up because I haven't got him in his face in my face in 2 months. Right. Maybe we should talk about something else and they'll stop doing that to us. I'm very suspicious about stuff like that. Well, you know what? As he's trying to get his audio back on, I'm just going to kind of move along to the next thing because he and I both talked about it a little bit. I want to talk about it some more. You know, I think it was Emily Moyer who first brought this idea of what the secret space program actually really is. you were probably actually part of that conversation. I may have been listening to this to you guys, that there is no secret space program other than the spaces they're creating inside you that they want to inhabit in some way, you know. And I am doing, keep working on it. I am doing lectures on social engineering this week and next week in New Orleans and San Francisco. And the way I started out first, as you guys probably realize, is that we can't view the whole of the trance of the AI artificial, you know, blended, tightly woven trance. We can't, if we try to look at the thing as a whole, we can't see it. It's too big. So my view was, as soon as baby, as soon as you can spot like a little chink in a little part, you got to rip it out and have a look at it. And I've been doing that for a while. And I think we just lost him again, but that's okay. I'm going to keep talking until he comes back. And that's important to be able to look at each bit. It's called re-engineering, you know, re-engineering the trance. You grab a bit, you look at it dispassionately, you try to get some perspective, you try to get some space from it. It's very important to do that. But what we're not doing yet that we need to do is look at us within the context of the social engineering personally. We've seen the social engineering as a whole. We've seen the bits of the social engineering. The bits of the social engineering have allowed us to see the whole. Here he comes again. We've done this before. Hi, babe. Or can you? Anyway, the thing is, we really do need to see ourselves personally, me, Shane, you, whoever, in the context of what's happened to us. I think we're ready to have a look at that, and I think that it's important that we do. And so I'm starting my talk on social engineering at the point at which we're born. At the point at which we're born, say something.
I think we might be back.
You are back. There you are. So you know what I'm talking about. The point at which we're born. There are people like Janice Barcelo. I've been listening to her work. She does really, really good work. Saying that, in fact, the way that human birth and the immediate before and immediate after trauma is actually the very beginning of our traumatization. And she thinks it's really an induction into the cult that we're trapped in. We're trapped in right now. So I want Shane to talk about that because he knows a lot about the cult. He knows a lot about traumatology. And I'm sure he knows, maybe he's even sort of seen this sequence in his, you know, the period of time where they forced him to look at this kind of stuff, you know?
Even with what I was saying about the different programs having a different trauma base to them, that's kind of the baseline to it. You know, we are an energetic system that resides within a body, and the way that you affect that energetic system is through trauma. And so right from birth, you have that whole energy chakra system knocked out of line through trauma, you know, and people are kind of waking up to that and sticking more to like a water birth. But let's just look at the standard birth. You know, there's all this screaming, there's all this pain that your mother's feeling and everything else. And then you're ripped out of her, quite literally. The cord is cut before it really should be. You're shipped off to go into another room where you're away from the mother, where the first place you should go is right here on your mom, you know, and you don't get any of that. And that's your initial trauma. And they're sticking tubes up your nose and down your throat and all these different things that, you know, have a medical basis to them. But the end result is trauma. You're kept in a cold, because I mean, anyone who's ever been in a hospital room, it's not warm, you know, it's not nice. And then they're you know, the placental fluid and all of that stuff should stay on your body for a while, because there's still, you know, a use for that. But it's, you know, it's wiped off immediately or cleaned up in order to bring you back to your mom. But
they put a hat on you.
Exactly. They, you know, little booties, all these different things. And it's almost like being branded or having a number put on you energetically. And then from there, I mean, with young boys, we do the circumcision right away. And all these different things, it's causing pain, and it's causing you to energetically be disrupted right from the beginning. And then, of course, with the way our society is set up, it's trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma from there forward. And It's the same reason why in a program they have a daily trauma center that you know endure. What I mean by that is just a different method of them creating or causing trauma on you, so that you will feel, so that you are, you know, energetically less powerful, less potent, less able to defend yourself, less able to fight back, less able to be you. And that's what it's all about. That's what, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we also have, because of the, you know, the different recycling and just the fact that society has been like this for years now, you know, centuries now. It's we have residual trauma from past lives and murders and rapes and all of these other things that we endured in past lives that still come forward because we don't have the proper time in between lifetimes to cleanse ourselves of that, or the proper time within a lifetime. And I mean, like, murder happens and instant death happens, and sometimes that trauma cannot be avoided, and it does have to get worked out in the next lifetime. But when our society is set up in such a way that it ensures that is the case for us all, and has for way too long at this point.
Yeah.
And the other aspect to all of this ritual trauma and everything else is, for every, you know, every 3 generations that passes, that's stuck in the genetic memory. So that's why, you know, it's the 3rd generation satanic ritual abuse people that are so hard off, is because it's that 3rd generation. They're born with it before they endure it, and then they endure it, and they're kind of screwed at that point, you know. And it is really sad. Not to say that you can't come back from it, because you can, but you know, it's like the game is rigged.
Yes, as you say in your intro to your own shows, which I love. So there's no remediation then of, I mean, what we're taught about reincarnation and all of that is not actually what's going on, and or has been going on. When you're in this sort of light trap, there is no way to remediate, right?
You don't get the proper life review. You don't get the, you know, the guidance of your soul, your soul guides or your soul family there to help you see and help you shake it off, you know. And you don't even have the personal power at that point. You're so weak to really do what you need to do and what you're capable of. So, you know, these things are changing, but irrespective of them changing, like, we're still in a spot here and now where we have to deal with them.
Yeah, I could tell. Actually, I feel right now very much as if we need to push ourselves a bit more, which is why I'm trying to make these lectures now more personal, and say, look, you got to look at this. We've got to look at this, and we got to look at it fast. We got to look at it fast, because looking at it slowly doesn't change the fact that it's there and it's messing everything up. And if we don't get past that hurdle soon, you know, that's going to be a problem. So also, I feel like it's pulling off the Band-Aid in the end, Shane, because we need to move on to the magic lectures. Do you know what I'm saying? I try very hard with my workshop to, like, give them a tool, but we really have to move into the transformation part of what should be happening right now. And I think most see, listen to me generalizing. I certainly feel dragged down by not crossing the hurdle, by not pushing past it. And so I'm not, I think we probably all are, even if we can't put a name on it, you know. I mean, I'm going to Northern California to speak in the middle of the fire zone for various reasons. I'm super stoked to get an opportunity to speak up about hemp. And, you know, hemp is actually a byproduct of cannabis. It's not like cannabis comes from hemp. It's the other way around. But because there was a serious attack on that substance in that area, it's an opportunity to push that forward as well, which is, in my view, helpful for the planet. The planet needs it. The planet needs to be covered in cannabis. It was. It's healthy, and I don't know how we got on cannabis, but that's because like I said, I'm tired, and I've been working on these lectures, and it's just like all right there. So, but what I'm trying to say is we need to push into the personal, rip off the Band-Aid, and move on to the magic now. We really do. And you're going to feel a lot better when you do. You're going to feel a lot better. Which reminds me, Shane has said to me because I was talking about AI. I always get nervous about AI. I do. He knows. I get really anxious about AI. Well, what's this about? Well, what's happening here? You know. Um, so interestingly enough, he said, because AI, in my understanding of the lectures that I've listened to that he's been part of, is that we get to a certain point where we're ready to break through, and then the whole thing the reset button gets pushed, and we get shot back to the beginning again. But he says happily that there isn't going to be another reset. There's going to be another rebirth, and I want to hear what he has to say about that. Shane, I can't hear you, babe. Ah. That's okay. Now they really want to hear this, so you got to get back to it. I have to say for my friend Shane, he's not on his own computer. Okay? Not his fault. His computer's running the show. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Do you guys out there get anxious talking about AI? It's a real hot potato subject, and there are some people out there who are really trying to make us look at it the way it is right now, and it causes cognitive dissonance even with people who are experienced with cognitive dissonance, you know. And since I'm so attached to the Fae, and I'm attached to the Sophia, the planet, Terra, whatever you want to call her, the very fact of AI just pisses me off. And so I have to overcome that every time we have a conversation about it, but it's a little bit less every time. Anyway, and coming from somebody like Shane, it makes it easier to digest because one sort of trusts what he's saying. He doesn't seem to have any vested interest in what whether AI wins or in what he's saying. It's not like it can't benefit him in any way. If anything, it puts him in the hot seat all the time. So, yeah. So we've talked about several incarnations of AI, and apparently there's an AI that goes back before the Fae, which I actually found bizarre because I always think of the Fae as the beginning. And I think when he gets back, what he'll say to me is that this AI was a companion of Source. Nod or shake your head. No? Yes? No? No. No. Okay. All right. It's really, let him try one more thing, but it's just that he's on it's not even his computer. So he's trying very hard. And the other thing a couple other things I wanted to talk about with him was this process of initiation, because it's been something that I've lived with, studied, been immersed in my whole life. It's not the same thing as this cult. Come on in. It's not the same thing as this cult that we get, shoved into from birth. Do you want to speak? No? Okay. But there's like a medicine. It's not a medicine. There's a counter frequency. Just as he was talking about the tone that you might hear in your ear, if you send that back out, you've got interfering frequencies and you can cancel it out. That's just physics. There's an initiation that we go through, or several initiations that we go through when we come in, that counteracts or acts as a protection in a way, or helps us protect ourselves against the subjugation that the powers that be, I don't know what to call them anymore, I'll just call them the predator, is inflicting on us. And it can be a constant back and forth, it can be a constant war, but we have that shield, that sword and shield. And I'm just going to keep talking, Shane. Do what you want. You do what you want. You can do a puppet show. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is the initiations that some of us go through are really we set ourselves up for this with the help of other people sometimes. And it's the recapitulation of all the initiations that we've been through the epochs, which means the mystery schools that we've been through. We relive that as we go through the years. When I finished writing The Sun Thief and my house burned down, the message that I got was, when the temple burns, the door to Ephesus opens. Well, I lived on Temple Street. That house was on Temple Street. And in fact, yeah, a lot started to happen to me at that point. But these initiations are messed up. They're brutal. We ask for them, we want them. But it's like we come in and we have job to do, and we have tasks. And the only way that we can fight off the subjugation enough to be aware, to be available, to become aware, is by going through these constant, unrelenting initiations, So I don't know if we're going to get Mr. Bales back or not. Poor guy. I want to hear what he has to say about this stuff. You know what, Shane? I'll tell you what, babe. Let's go ahead and close it up here and leave people with these questions, and we can come back and talk about them. And also, Shane has always invited you people to ask, to elaborate on any questions that you may have. I'll just turn this into a YouTube, and maybe between New Orleans and San Francisco, we can get back in here and answer some questions. Are you willing? I know you're willing. It's just a matter of, can you hear me? I don't think you can hear me. Can you hear me, Shane? Oh. Okay, I will type this to him later. Oh, he's gone again. Okay, guys, that's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap it up, and we're going to bring you more between New Orleans and San Francisco. Please, in the comments section, come on in, say what you need. Oh, are you back?
I think I'm back.
Oh, okay. So
I've had to switch to my phone, but this should work a lot better. So.
Okay. I'm not really sure.
Other than I have to hold it, which is rather annoying.
Okay. I'm not really sure what you actually heard, but I did talk about, we didn't talk about the reset and rebirth because you're the only one who can talk about that. But I did go into the initiation situation and how, in my view, it's like those frequencies you were talking about with the tone that you might hear. If you send that back out, it's just an interference wave. It's an interference wave, is what it is. It's just physics. So if we come in and we are avalanched with this subjugation program, going through these initiations that we go through, some of us, as we're going through, is a way to keep us at least in a position where we're able to wake up, And also the initiations that I've gone through in my life, and when I've talked to other people about it as well, for me, it's a recapitulation of the initiations that we've gone through the epochs, through the epochs. The mystery schools that we've already been through get recapitulated in a way as we do these initiations coming through. When my house burned down, I was given a message. It was, when the temple burns, the door to Ephesus opens. That house was on Temple Street, okay? And after that, all kinds of shit busted loose, okay? So, yes, so that's right. Anyway, you may have a comment on that, and then we could move on to the reset thing if you want.
Yeah, I'll segue into that actually, because what I was mentioning even before with the trauma and the purpose for that being, something that weakens you, right? The reason why they want you weak is because you're fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Yeah, you are.
And regaining that and taking responsibility for yourself and not playing the victim to that trauma is exactly where you regain that power. I could look at what I suffered and I could have let it break me, and I could have let it make me a bad person, and I could use it to excuse behaviors today. But I've never been willing to do that because I take self-responsibility as much as, whoever may do whatever. It's still my responsibility to decide how I'm going to react to it. It's not what happens to the being, it's what the being does once that happens to them. Right. And so the same is true with all of this trauma. You've been through trauma that sucks. You shouldn't have had to go through that. But At the end of the day, it's up to you. Get off your fucking knees, stand back up, fight back, and not allow it to break you, and figure out how to put that energy back in place so that you do realize your own power, and you are able to utilize your own power. And in the case of where we are right now as a species, or as the human collective, we're at that place right now where we can, if we were to fall into that victim mentality, then we might end up with a reboot. We might end up with them shutting everything down and just acting like it never happened.
Yeah.
But it's the cat's out of the bag right now. So as long as we hold on to that cat belongs to us and is our friend, and we can use that cat to do what we need to do. And that's why I said, like, it's not going to be a reboot this time. It's going to be a rebirth. There's other ways I could explain that, but I think that's the best way. Is as soon as we take the responsibility for what we've endured as being not our fault in any sort of way. That's not what I mean by taking responsibility for it. Just taking responsibility for your reaction to it. You don't have to let it break you. You don't have to remain weak and powerless just because that's how it made you feel.
Right.
You can stand up and you can remember what you are, which is a beautiful, magical, wonderful, amazing creator that came here to enjoy an experience. That experience wasn't what we signed up for. It's like, Total Recall, our trip from Mars wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it's still a memory that we're always going to have, and it's still an experience that we've had to face, and we still have to turn on the reactor, so that's where we are. And we're not going to reboot because we're too powerful. So we're going to rebirth. We're going to cut them off this time, and we're going to reboot them back into our system, and that's the reboot.
Okay. And we've got to remind, I'm going to have to include that in my lectures, because it's going to redeem, we have to redeem the bad news. We always have to redeem the bad news. You just do. And that's who we are as well. We redeem things. Redemption is a word I love. It's not religious for me in any way, shape, or form. It's human. It's us. It's our magic. Redemption is also part of our magic. So I will include that kind of pep talk, if you will, that reality at the end of some of these lectures. So, but it is true. You don't have to stay on your knees. Trust me, trust Shane. We freaking know this. When my house burned down, I just kind of looked at it and went, look at that. Because by then, I was so freaking used to this shit. I was like, how about that? My children, on the other hand, were not. And they went through every initiation that I did, right? From the time they were born. So, but you know what? That's going on for everybody right now. These kids are coming in for a reason. They're coming in because they know that they got to stand up and do it. They got to stand up and do it. There's no point not standing up and doing it. That's why they came. So they're getting hit pretty hard too, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, it's just there's too much fear. There's too much nonsense of just saying you're a victim. It's the Draco's fault. It's AI's fault. It's everybody's fault. It doesn't matter whose fucking fault it is. What matters is that you do something about it, and just do something about it. Or you can dwell on the pain, which I'm not willing to do. That's why I don't talk about various traumas I've been through. That's why I don't focus on the dark side of that. It's not that I don't believe that it's there. It's not that I don't want you to know that it's there. It's that that's not where your focus needs to be. Your focus needs to be on changing that game. And all you're really doing by rehashing everything they did to you is rehashing all of the trauma for someone else and putting it off on someone else, your audience.
Spreading it.
And I don't want to do that to people. I would rather build people up and make them realize that they're better than all of that anyways. And that's my focus,
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm kind of concerned with in the areas that I'm going to, because I see New Orleans is sort of drenched in this hurricane trauma, over and over and over and over and over. California, it's fire, drought, and earthquakes over and over and over and over and over. Yeah. No different than being assaulted as a child when you get locked into your lower chakra.
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's an assault. It's an assault, and you must in somehow, some way, find a way to be objective about it, push it back, and deal with it in that way, digest it in that way, because otherwise it's just got you. It's got you. Okay. So Miracles. Did I talk about everything? Yeah. You know what? You said something about miracles not too long ago. I can't remember what the context was. I don't
Me
even
either.
care. I don't even care. Do you have anything to say about miracles? Just off the top of
Well,
my head.
I mean, miracles are something for myself. The way I view a miracle is, it's the universe or our higher self, if you will, giving us something when we need it as a reminder of what we're capable of. I've gone through some traumatic personal experiences over the last few months, just in my, mundane everyday life that
52 card pickup.
that really did beat me down quite a bit and made me question a lot of things. But instead of becoming depressed and crying and doing the things that maybe, I would have done otherwise, I thought to myself, okay, how can I turn this around in a hurry? So I created a mantra and I just demanded from this universe what I want, and this is what I want. And I had my ritual to achieve that, and it worked. Almost within a week, I had my answer back.
Yeah.
And now that answer is in my life and a part of my life, and I don't have to question anymore. And it was just my own reminder, my own miracle that we have creative power over this game. This script is being written by us, and the only reason why it hasn't gone the way that we want it to is because we've allowed other people to convince us that they're writing the script, and we perpetuate all this information in this community that they're writing the script. They have been writing the script, but the first thing they needed to do was traumatize you until you were so weak that you thought you needed them to write the script. Once you get beyond that trauma, you realize your own power, you understand you can write it yourself, and you just start doing it.
Yeah.
And demand from them, demand from it what you want out of it, and that's where you'll see miracles happen.
That's going to be the end of the timeline that I do. Beginning, end. The end of the timeline is you turning the whole goddamn thing upside down, turning it around, because it's not real anyway. It isn't
Right.
real anyway. It's just fucking, thing that they put over your eyes, right? Okay, Shane, I think it's been kind of, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. But let's make it short tonight and do another one soon, since I have to get up so early, et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to get my friend back on the horn here and talk to him about some things and give everybody else an opportunity to experience what I get to experience so often, which is Mr. Bales at his best. Okay. So, okay, Shane, so let's wrap it up, and I will hopefully get back with you visually before I get done with the tour. If not, I'm back. If not, I'm back like the 6th of December. And when I'm back on the 6th of December, it's full tilt boogie toward our Toronto, Niagara Falls, saying put everything else aside. We're going to be there. There's a lot of excitement. Randy Moggins is coming up. People are totally excited to see Randy, too. Did you realize? They're like,
Better be. I'm excited to see
what?
Randy.
What? Randy too? What? There's something about the three of us together that's exciting people. So check in with me and Shane, either one of us. Shane is the Ruiner777 at gmail.com, or he's very available. He's making himself very available on Facebook. Thank you. For people who want to talk about Toronto or Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is the 6th of January, and Toronto is the 9th of January. This week, if you get your tickets, we're gonna go out to dinner. We're gonna get your tickets before the 1st of December. We're gonna go have a dinner thing, a drinks and dinner thing, where we can sit down and chat, and just a reward for saying thanks for giving it a nice little start. I think, and the ticket sites, they're on Shane's page, they're on my page. Just keep an eye on that, yeah. Just keep an eye on that, because we really want. Yeah, this is really important. It's really, really important for everybody that we get this kicked off and started. And then there's interest in taking it all kinds of other places, the United Kingdom, Britain. They want, there are 2 or 3 events already in Britain. And then in April, we'll be back to do some other stuff. But meet us in Toronto or Niagara Falls to begin with. I have to tell you, when I first approached Shane about doing this kind of stuff, I said, we got to go to Niagara. And it turned out that it's really important to Shane too. Niagara Falls holds a real a real special place in each of our personal historical magic history. It is an amazing place, and I think to incarnate these lectures and the next phase of what we can be doing together to stand in front of that water and just like have the water help us bring this. I can't wait. I can't wait. So anyway, that's 6th of January. The other one's the 9th. So hit me up or hit Shane up, and we'll tell you all about it. Okay? Yeah. All right.
Sounds good to me.
Anything else, Bud? Anything else for tonight?
No, I'm good. For people who are purchasing tickets from Toronto, I live in Toronto, so if you do end up there early and you do end up having to stay late, I live there. So as long as you get to us, then I'll make sure that everyone gets a chance to talk with me at some point and ask me whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. So.
And there'll be a Q&A after and all kinds of stuff. I mean, in Niagara, we're just going to all go out to dinner after. I mean, in Toronto, it'll be a much bigger crowd. So, okay, my friend, hopefully, I'm going to try to talk to Shane about getting more FaceTime. I mean, a really good friend of mine does this thing once a week with a friend of his, and it's like huge. People love it. So they just get on and chat about the stuff that's going on. Okay, love, I will talk to you soon. Okay, this will be up.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Shane. Bye.